thank you so much, Dan, for giving me a chance to tell my story and prompting me to really analyze what has happened to me and share it in hopes of helping someone else, because that's the whole thing. Like I said, I made a promise that if there was some way what I was going through could serve a purpose, then please help me see that and execute the delivery of that purpose to help other people find some hope. So. Hey everybody, it's me again, Allison. Hi, how are you? So it's only been just a few days since I had my interview with Dan in Pain for You, and I feel really good about it, and I'm excited that it's going to be shared with the world very soon. But at the same time, I had the typical, darn, there wasn't time to say this, and gee, I wish I would have remembered to mention this, and all those thoughts have been swirling in my head. It's amazing that we had, I don't know, close to an hour, I'm sure, and that there's still so much that I really would like to share, and thinking that there might be some questions that have come up for people that watch the video and want to know more. So whether it's for me to feel like I've been able to finish all my thoughts, or you because you needed more clarity, this is happening. So, and it's also happening a lot more off the cuff than I normally like to do. I really like to be prepared and have my thoughts carefully outlined. And there's a little bit of that going on, but mostly I just want to just get this done and see what comes out and accomplish something that I hope will be helpful. So, in no particular order, without further ado, I've often thought if they took away without further ado, we'd lose a third of what we see in HGTV. It's the most commonly repeated phrase. But anyway, okay, let's get to it here. I feel like I never made the point of what my PTSD actually amounted to, what it was related to. I hope it came across, but it should be articulated. My limbic system, my hypervigilant brain, became extremely reactive to anything that was supposed to be calming, sedating, or stimulating. Anything that was at all mood altering, to the point that I had severe reaction to chamomile tea or peppermint tea, or barbecue potato chips, like just the spices there were enough of a stimulant. Being out in the heat became a problem. Anything with garlic or chili powder, anything like that, that was too much. And even I went to see somebody who did somatic experiencing therapy, and the talking with her was great. And for most people, this would have been just great, all the things that she did. But one of the things she wanted to do was help calm the base of my skull, where all of this comes together, where your biggest nerve goes down from your primitive brain. And she wanted to calm my adrenals. And so we had a session where I just laid on the table and she just put her hands like on my adrenals and just put her hands at the base of my skull. And that should have been calming, because my brain was afraid of things that were calming. The next day, I felt like I'd been in a car wreck. It was like my whole body had whiplash. So that's just really weird and freaky. Don't know if that's happened to anybody else, but that describes the nature of my PTSD. And almost the same thing, but slightly different, is that it was the fear of the reaction to those things. So it might not have even been the fact that somebody did this or I ate that or whatever. It was, oh my gosh, what will happen if, right? So obviously that is related. That's the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, Thank you, FDR. But that's really what it was all about for me. So, and because the stimulants were so innocuous, the triggers, you can guess how difficult it was to manage that. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about my food sensitivities and say that they're mostly gone. Again, I'm not going to shoot for, I'm 100%, because I don't want to set myself up for what if and be all freaked out. I can eat just about anything that I want to. I just often choose not to. Part of it might be if I've been going through a time of not sleeping very well, and I'm thinking, I need to be a little kinder to myself and not challenge myself. And part of it is that I just know, even though I can eat sugar, it's not good for me. And if I have a little bit, it's almost like I'm an alcoholic. And well, that didn't hurt me. I can have some more. I can have some more. And pretty soon I've had a lot and I don't feel so great, right? Or just my digestion slows it down enough, for me to say, with certain kinds of foods, and it wasn't worth it. And I try really hard to eat organic, non-GMO, unprocessed or not ultra-processed foods. So I'm not going to say I eat everything I want all the time and it's all fine, but it is miles better than it was. When I was at my worst, every morning I had an egg and some organic turkey slices. For lunch, I had cooked vegetables, broccoli, carrots, squash, combination. And for evening, I had tossed salad, sometimes with some meat in it, and walnuts and raisins were my big treat, right? That was all I ate for years. And if I had like a little tiny brownie, I would pay the price for weeks in terms of panic attack symptoms because my body was afraid of the sugar and chocolate and carbs or whatever it was. But just a little while ago, it was my birthday, our birthday. We had the same birthday, my husband and I. We went out. I ordered what I want, and we both were so full, we decided we're not going to do dessert. And then they had seen the birthday cards on the table, found out it was our birthday, brought dessert. It was this huge chocolate ganache, and so rich and thick with a big hunk of whipped cream and with candles burning. And she brings it to the table, and we're like, okay. I ate something that would have just like it would have been so bad 6, 7, 8 years ago, or even a few years ago, and I was fine. I slept fine. I didn't have any symptoms from it. So I just wanted to clarify that those food sensitivities were pretty intense, and they got much better. Okay. Another thing that I never talked about because it never really came up is I wanted to mention something about supplements. I've seen a lot of success stories where people are so proud to say, I took all these supplements, I spent all this money on all these supplements, and now I don't take any. And like, this is, yay me, great success, right? If all of your supplements were what you were looking to help you and they didn't help you at all, and now you've realized that and they were gone, okay, I get it. However, we don't get the nutrients that we need from our diet. Our food is not very nutrient enriched. And sometimes the way that they try to enrich it has other things involved that maybe dilute the good that we might gain from having additional vitamins and minerals. So I took and still take additional vitamin C and vitamin D. My D was so low that it was like off the charts the wrong way. Like it was lower than what they recommended, what they put in the low range. That came out funny, but I'm not going to edit it. I think you knew what I was trying to say. It took me a long time to find something that I didn't react to, because even that to my body seemed like, oh, it's like a stimulant. It's going to give you more energy, and that's scary, right? It took me a long time to find one that worked. It's a liquid drop thing that the doctor recommended, and my vitamin D levels are back up. And of course, being out in the sunshine helps. I take magnesium, I take zinc, and a couple of other things. There's a supplement that really helps my eyes, and I'm at the age where dry eyes can be a thing, and I do have something that I take that helps my digestion, and I don't look to all of these things to solve all my problems, but your body and your organs do need help getting through rough stuff, especially if you've been immune compromised because of whatever your chronic condition is, and or extended time with your immune system battling PTSD or anxiety or whatever it is. There's lots of reasons that your organs might need help. Just always say, use good quality stuff and don't rely on that to fix everything, because it's it's always a combination of things, right? Primarily, we're trying to change what's happening in your heart and in your mind, right? What's coming out of your mouth. But at the same time, you're going to take good care of yourself. You're going to watch the way you talk to and about yourself, and you're going to take good food in your body. And if you need additional help to get the nutrients and nutrition and energy that you need, make some wise choices there as well. So I never had a chance to talk about that, and I feel like it was important. Now, speaking of things that you put in your body, I did mention in my interview with Dan that I was put on tranquilizers, and then I never really talked about what happened with that. They worked for a year and a half or so, I'm not sure exactly, and then they didn't work anymore, and you can't just stop taking a drug like that, even though I was in a small dose for my body, which has always, a small dose of anything has been enough, right? Even tapering off of that was a big deal. So I don't want to exactly say here how I got off of them, because that kind of walks into the area of me giving medical advice. I will tell you, though, that I did it with a psychiatrist's guidance, the woman who was prescribing the pills at that point. And it wasn't something she was familiar with, but she had heard that people did this and that it had been successful. So she said, okay, let's get a plan. Let's do this, blah, blah, blah. Her plan was over a period of like a year and a half, very, very cautious. And I would tell you that I felt very guided, hopeful, confident in the process, and did it carefully and listened to my body. And it took me more like weeks, less than 2 months, I'm sure. And it was fine. It was fine. So again, that might not be right for you. Don't just stop taking tranquilizers if you've been taking them. Get a psychiatrist who specializes in helping people get off their drugs. That was a really big deal for me, because if you recall from my story, my mother had ended up in a psychiatric ward when she tried to go off of her tranquilizers. So just the process could have scared me enough to make everything much worse, but it didn't. So let that give you hope. Okay. Let's see. There were some important points that I wanted to cover that I don't know that I covered all of them. Here's one that I didn't talk about when I was talking to Dan. In the context of all the things that I revealed telling my story, you would have seen many times, well, that doctor made a mistake, and 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 it went on, and so many people made it worse. I just want to say all of them were well-intentioned. Even the ones that weren't paying much attention, they didn't want to hurt me, right? Most of them, 99%, really were engaged in trying to do the right thing. Medical doctors are limited by their education in medical school, because medical school does not talk about these things. So excited to see people like Rebecca Kennedy, who I heard interviewed this morning on the Pain PT. Bless both of them. Dr. David Clark, and of course Howard Schubiner. They are helping the rest of the medical world figure it out. This stuff needs to be in the medical schools. So I just want to say that I respect everybody doing the best they can with the information that they have, and not having enough training, understanding, background to know what mind-body syndromes can do, what neuroplastic symptoms are about, how to treat them. They're educated in terms of, it's almost always a pharmaceutical recommendation, or, oh, you just have too much stress, take a vacation, or let's do this with surgery, or, go see a specialist or whatever. And I don't fault the medical profession for a model that works a lot of the time. And I want to say there have been doctors that have helped me so much. Most of the time it's been naturopaths. Bless my urologist that I first saw with my kidney stones, who, I had emergency surgery that day. Let's get a laser up there. There's something stuck in your tube. We're going to take care of it. Whoa, hooray, right? So glad he could do that. If you're in an accident and you injure yourself, hooray for doctors. But I've heard estimates anywhere from 40 to 75% of people that go into see a doctor into an emergency room, it's related to stress or their emotional state or some kind of a mind-body thing. So until they start teaching folks how to deal with that, these things are going to continue to happen where stuff gets addressed incorrectly. And I'm just hoping that my voice will help join in that revolution that's happening to get people to pay attention that we need to open our minds to another way of doing things that could be better, is better. All right. Okay. I want to talk about some interesting asides, just little stories that I think they have, I don't know, education value, a little bit of entertainment value, will help enlighten people in terms of how, whoa, that really was the brain, wasn't it? How about that? I think that I touch on this story a little bit in one of my previous Spacebird videos. I, for several reasons, the pace of getting those out has seriously dropped off, probably because I'm working full time now, but a couple of other reasons, but I'm hoping to get back on board. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the point. So about 6 months or more, for about 6 months, while I was going through the worst of my symptoms, I didn't yawn. It might have been longer than that. I really didn't look at the calendar, but I kind of have this gauge of when things really were the worst, the end of March of 2015, and when I was able to go back to work in October. It might have been a little extending either way. Anyway, I didn't yawn. I could not. My body was not relaxed enough. It takes a certain amount of, oh, everything's okay to do that, right? Now, when I started my brain rewiring practice, I inserted something in there that was not in the scripted program. And that was when I got to this certain point where I was going to speak to myself, speak to my limbic self, I would tell my neck, oh, okay, get long. And being a dancer, dancers have long necks, you know, they don't dance like this. It's not beautiful. Get long, relax these muscles, let your shoulders drop, and then take some deep breaths. And because I'm a singer, I knew diaphragmatic breathing from a very young age, so I would do these deep breaths. And after I did that for a period of time, I got to noticing that when I came to that point in my practice, that tick, 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 here I am in the little script. When I got to that point, even before I did the deep breaths and told my shoulders and neck to do their thing or stop doing whatever other thing they were doing, I would yawn. Like Olympic competition gold medal winning yawns. And it took me a while to put it together. And just the fact that my brain knew I was getting to the point where I was going to feed myself messages of, it's okay, you can step down off of your hypervigilance now, deep breathe, relax, you're all right. Those messages of safety were arriving, therefore, and it got to be pretty comical. So this is not anything I could have planned or, figured out in advance or whatever, but it just was a reminder of, oh, hello, my brain's listening. Okay. A little clip inserted here, something important that I really left out and wanted to go into in a little more detail. Breathing, deep breathing. There are times when you're just in too much pain or too stressed out or too exhausted or too something, whatever, where using one of those tools, a practice, a script, an affirmation, one of those things off the list just feels counterproductive or that you can't. You're not able to focus, whatever reason. All those things are valuable, but there are times that feel like crisis times where breathing is the only thing that you can do. However, breathing is useful all the time, but it's the most useful when nothing else is probably going to work well. Especially if when you breathe deeply, you are finding ways to deliver a message of safety to yourself. So I actually made a video, Brain Talk video, several of them for it's like part 1 of 3, Brain Talk on my YouTube channel. Just after the 12.5-minute mark, I go into detail of how to do it, where you're breathing from your diaphragm, expanding your gut while you take the air into your lungs. So what I have often done is just told myself while I'm doing this breathing, really, really slow in, hold it, really, really slow out, pause. It's just said things like, this will pass. Boy, you've been through a lot worse. This is not a big deal. Whatever the reason, doesn't matter. It's going to be better. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. Sometimes I have hymn lyrics that I will, in my head, repeat this line really slowly while I breathe in, repeat the next line while I hold my breath, and then as I'm releasing my breath, repeat the next line of the hymn, right? A poem, I've got all these affirmations, or sometimes you're just counting. All of those things are fine. But it just slows down your heart rate. It slows down the release of adrenaline and cortisol and all those things that can get you more hyped up. And it just tells your brain that, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. Maybe I will be okay. How about that, right? I just can't say enough good things about it, that you can use it at all kinds of times, getting ready to have a hard conversation, or, before a therapy session, before a meditation, anytime you feel like, oh, I need to regroup, right? It's a wonderful gift. And the science behind it is quite incredible. Sometimes a whole brain rewiring program is just about breathing. Seems to me there should be a lot more to it, but it's obviously very, very important that somebody's going to build a whole program just around that breath work. So that was one of the things that really helped me heal. Dan asked me that question, and I didn't put that on the list of things to say when I expounded upon that. So now you know, learn how to deep breathe. Use it well, use it often. When I was at a difficult point with this electromagnetic hypersensitivity thing, which is real, by the way, which is limbic system based, which is all about neuroplastic hypersensitivity stuff happening, right? Before I knew that, I lived in a place that we could have called electromagnetic field soup, very close to an airport. And there's a website you can go to. I don't recommend it because it will probably amp up the fear. But I learned that I was within 2-3 miles of like hundreds and hundreds of cell towers and broadcasting towers. And we had turned off the Wi-Fi in our house, and my husband wired everything, which is the way that I do it because it's just smart. We'll talk about that. But anyway, I bought this shielding canopy, which is like a Faraday cage. That's like what the military uses to block out all signals so you can do secret stuff and nobody can broadcast in and nothing you do gets broadcast out, kind of a thing. So there's silver threads in this canopy. So I just did that because I knew that my nervous system needed time to just not feel like it had to fight off this attack of living in this soup, right? Because it was pretty bad. And when we first got that canopy, if I would be in it for just laying down for half an hour or the whole night, when I would step out of it, I could smell something that to me smelled like burning metal. Like I could smell electricity on fire or something. I don't know how to describe it. And I would have never imagined that there was such a smell that even existed in the world. And I think that because my brain knew that my state of hypervigilance interpreted all these cell towers and all this stuff, the neighbor's Wi-Fi, whatever it was, dirty electricity, which is a thing, interpreted all of that as a threat. When I got into the canopy, it's like, oh, thank goodness. And I went back out, oh, alert again. And, all your senses, your sense of sight, taste, touch, smell, what did I leave out? There's 5 of them. Anyway, that went into hyperdrive. And this didn't last for a long time. I don't know, weeks, maybe months. But I just feel it's so fascinating because I couldn't have made that up. I could not have made that up. Yeah. Okay, my nose knew. Now, another thing that predates that story, one of my symptoms that I had was this thing on the left side of my body, and my arm and shoulder hurt badly all the time. And this is before I knew what electromagnetic hypersensitivity was. I didn't know this was a thing. And I'm seeing an EMDR therapist, and she's helping me. And we're trying to figure out, okay, is this the side you held your babies? Is this the side that you got this injury on? Is this the side you're trying to protect because of whatever? I mean, we went back and forth on this. And one day she finally said, why don't you take off your wristwatch, which was on my left arm? And I'm like, okay. I needed my wristwatch. I was teaching dance, and I had to see how much time I had left to work on choreography before the next class was coming in. I took out my watch, and I'm telling you, in a day or two, my arm stopped hurting. Now, you would have thought that I would have figured out, oh, there's a battery in the watch. Why didn't my body like that electrical battery, right? I just like, okay, yay, my arm doesn't work. Interesting, moving on, right? Again, my brain was, and part of it was, I was heavy metal toxic. And so metal conducts electricity, right? And I for a long time still had that feeling up here, and it was on the left side of my body. So, okay, for whatever that's worth, I don't want anybody to go, oh no, that's going to happen to me, because everybody's different, and because I healed. So remember, the fear of the thing is worse than the thing itself. Okay, now, I want to make sure I finish in time here. I'm trying to make this early in the morning before we go to church, and I can't relate to church. I leave the music. It's not good to walk in when that's your job. Okay, so there were 2 times, once in the middle of my 6-month period and once a little later, where I was in a bad place, but I had to do something, and I was able to do it. And it was fascinating to me how I was able to do it. So in the middle of my 6 months, I was still teaching dance, and the recital time was approaching. I had had subs for my classes while I was in the worst of my breakdown, but now these people can't take my classes through to recital. They can't finish the choreography, help them get, costumes figured out, and communicate with the parents, and here's when dress rehearsal is, and all that stuff. It's pretty intense when you're working up to recital, and guide the students to, you're doing great here, but let's fix that. I felt so not able to do that, because every day I was just in survival mode. Like, I was in this constant state of fear. But I felt so obligated because I'm a responsible person who doesn't want to let people down, maybe to the extreme sometimes. And B, I'm part owner of this studio, and, I want these kids to have a positive experience. And so I went back for a period of time where I finished my classes and did the recital. And that included my adult class that I taught, and I performed with them. And I found that when I just like, okay, I have to play this role, I need to do this, here I go, I was able to do it. And then when it was all over, I crashed big time. But it's so interesting how I would never have guessed that I would have been able to do that. And I was. Later on down the road, one of the things that I did when I was in my long healing phase, recovery phase, was I established a nonprofit for youth associated with the juvenile justice system. And part of this was bringing arts, visual and performing arts, to kids who were inside juvenile detention. And one of the things that we did was little talent shows. So I don't remember, it couldn't have been my first talent show. It was a ways down the road. They were called talent showcases. And they primarily focused on the kids. But when we first started, they would just learn a little dance routine, whatever. And then we'd fill it out with other entertainment to give us a good half an hour. As we went, the kids were able to dominate the show, right? Because we had more time with them, and it got to be more of a successful thing, and people were on board. But at the beginning, other people were entertaining, and that was a time where my adult class was going to come and do a routine. And I was like, we're on the way to the place, the juvenile hall, and where the kids are incarcerated. And I am in this state of complete agitation and wondering how in the heck I'm going to do this. Like, I can't focus my thoughts, and I'm feeling so scared all the time, and I'm this. But I got there, and like, my brain went to automatic pilot. Allison, you've been putting on shows your whole life. Okay, husband setting up the sound system. Here's the copies of the program. Okay, this kid needs a little extra coaching. Okay, who's setting up the chairs? How's that going to go? And it happened. And the show went really great, and I performed, and we loaded up, and I'm schmoozing with people and talking about, wow, it's great what we did, and love these kids. And then I got in the car, and I thought, wow, for a while there, I didn't feel it. Boom. And as soon as I had that thought, like I couldn't even complete the sentence in my brain with my mouth, bam, it's like somebody flipped the switch, and all the fear just went right back into my body, like faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive. And I should have understood at that point, whoa, something's happening with your brain, right? Didn't get it. Eventually I did, but at that moment I didn't get it. Okay, now this thing of what the brain will do to you kind of had a funny little story I wanted to tell before I finish up what I need to do in my next 15 minutes. Can I do it? We moved into this house like 3 years ago. And it's an older home, and the light switches are everything's located in different places, and it takes a while to get used to that stuff. When we first moved in, there was a time when I was feeling like I was pretty far along down my recovery, even though I had a pretty bad crash on moving day, which was challenging. But I'm doing okay, and I go in the bathroom, and I flip on the light, and the room does not really light up like I think it should. Then all of a sudden, I'm thinking something's wrong with my eyes again, because part of what happened to me with all I went through was vision problems, not just floaters, but my tears became so caustic, partly because of detoxing and partly because of medication I was taking, that the skin under my eyes actually like blistered. I would, just lots of things happened with my vision. And so I instantly had this panic rise up in me. I got panic-based diarrhea, and then I'm looking over, and there are two light switches. One is the overhead light, and one is the lights over the mirror, and I forgot one. So my body went into full, just because I only turned on one light switch. And I'm immediately assuming something bad is happening. A little laugh at myself, okay? You don't have to believe every thought that your brain has is the point of that. Okay, all right. Dan asked me, exactly what did you do to get well? And I didn't have a list along those lines. I had a list of what I did wrong and what I did right. And so I'm going to kind of summarize those two lists, and I think it will answer Dan's question a little better than I did. I did okay, but there's a few things I wish I would have said. So here I go, fixing all that. Okay, what I did wrong. By the way, it's okay that I did this wrong because I didn't know any better. I had so much compassion for me that was trying the best I could, right? I was obsessed with my symptoms and what I did to bring each one on. Okay, I've stopped obsessing. I let myself get really caught up in the discouragement. I would talk about it too much in the wrong ways. Stop doing that, right? And even when I found a doctor who could help me, and she saved my life, I began to look to her to kind of be my answer to everything, and gave her too much of my empowerment, right? So it was a mental thing. Even though she did wonderful things, I still needed to take more responsibility for how I approached my stuff with my mindset and my behavior and my words and all that. One of the things I did was I tracked everything. I made an Excel spreadsheet of this is what happened on this day. Here's my symptoms. Here's what I took then. Here's what I ate then. Here's what happened in my body. Here's the bad response. Oh, don't do that again. For months, I had a spreadsheet of tracking everything, thinking that gave me and keeping such good records that it's going to help me, and it made things worse. Okay. Another thing that I did was avoid way too much. When I learned about electromagnetic hypersensitivity, sorry if I'm talking too fast, I'll try to slow down. I became so afraid of the microwave oven that I would be across the room, have my husband push start, and I would run to the other side of the house. Like, okay, just don't stand right up next to it, folks, okay? That did not help. I compared myself too much to others. I saw people who recovered really quickly, and I decided that was going to be me, and I pushed myself too hard. If there's things that are triggered, you have to do the careful graded exposure and not freak yourself out, just like how they say, if exercising has been your thing you haven't been able to do, suddenly you feel better, don't go run the marathon, right? walk up and down your driveway first, or just to the kitchen and then around the block and whatever, right? So one of the things that bothered me was food. So I'm a few weeks into my brain training, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to be well right away, and I'm going to eat some sugar. And I had a half a candy bar, and I thought, I'm fine. This is great. I don't feel a thing. And an hour went by, whatever. I'm going to have the other half candy bar. And I'm telling you, it was like I was having a heart attack, the pain radiating down my arm, the whole thing. Why did I push myself? Why did I have to prove that I was faster, smarter, or better than everybody at healing? I should have been happy with one bite of candy bar, wait a day or two, have one bite of candy bar. I just had to push. Don't push. You be the judge. Just keep making progress. And if you have to kind of sit back for a while, it's all good. And if it sometimes hurts a little bit, that's fine. Just, be intelligent in how you judge your pace. I didn't know the roles of emotions, and I've learned a lot about that. And again, I still recommend the Disney movie Inside Out 2, especially. Okay, but yeah, that's a therapist is good, but they need to be somebody who's on board with brain rewiring stuff so they don't continue to reinforce your trauma. Yeah, and our song, write it down and get it out, tear it up and toss it. Some people think that's great. Some people, they can't be bothered. Nicole Sachs is all about her thing, journal speak. I think it's valuable. Get it out, write it down, but don't dwell on it and hang on to it, right? Okay. I didn't understand the symptom imperative. I let it derail me. So that's, when one symptom finally says, well, this isn't working, let's try something else to get her attention. Do some research on that. Howard Schubiter's got some really good information. I wish I'd have had a coach or a group. Which is one of the things I'm saying now. I'm going to go into that realm. So on my website, you'll see a page about coaching. I learned to stop feeding pity party with words that triggered all that kind of stuff. Okay, going over what I did right. I mentioned this when I was talking to Dan. I learned to summon joy. I learned to focus on, look for it, create it, experience it, verbalize it, spread it. Laughter and joy. I just can't say enough. That's like the biggest thing. And part of that is gratitude, expressing gratitude and not just thinking a good thought. Put it on paper, give it to somebody, make a list, write it down, say the words. And in my prayers, just this morning, I had a prayer of gratitude over breakfast, and it made me cry with gratitude and joy. And so, okay, celebrate your successes, write them down. I had this hour where I felt better, or this day where I did this, or this clarity I got on this, whatever. Keep track. I spent a lot of time outdoors, even if I couldn't walk because I was too tired. I would sit in a chair, listen to the birds, look at the flowers, right? Thankfully, I live in a place that it's green all the time, even if the flowers aren't blooming all winter long. We went camping even when I was in a hellish place because I knew I needed to be next to the water and in the mountains. Nature photography helped me so much. And the more I walked, the more I could walk. Prayer and scriptures, whoa. I started just really highlighting and saving and copying the ones that brought me comfort, and those would be the scriptures that I turned to when I needed them. So that's something I really recommended. I learned to trust God even when he wasn't there, or I thought he wasn't there, because he was, and give myself compassion for feeling deserted, because hopefully you know by now that I have strong Christian beliefs. Even Jesus on the cross is like, why have you forsaken me? And he knew better, right? That was his humanness coming out in feeling so lost and alone. But hanging in there, you can look back and say, yeah, I really wasn't alone. But because of the trauma that was happening, it's okay that you felt that way, right? It really is. It will pass. Hang on to that trust. Okay, I mentioned that I kept stretching. I listened to soothing and inspiring music. Sometimes that was sacred music, just, upbeat Christian music, just pop music that made me happy. And again, I want to plug Tim Janis. He's got great stuff. Gratitude journals, gratitude lists. I stopped watching the news. That was a smart thing. Let's see. My husband read to me out of really calming books, plots that felt to me reinforcing of positive things that I needed in my heart and mind. So bless him for that. You can, books on tape, they call them still when nobody has anything on tape anymore. Humor, I talked about that a little bit. You know, you got to be able to make jokes now and then. I recorded my own meditations, and that made a huge difference. I would listen to them, and I did one of them with this muscle tension and relax, where you start at the top and move to the bottom, and I thanked each part of my body for serving me well. It was a long thing. I put music to it. All that stuff was very therapeutic. Writing, I wrote those poems that turned into a book that I took off the market because it was before I knew about brain rewiring. But the affirmation poems are still on the website. There's 41 of them if they added that extra. Just doing those out loud. I said to me what I wanted God to say to me. So that particular approach is fabulous, especially like when you're in the scriptures, put your own name, say me, I, put your name in there. This is what I wish Jesus would say to me, and visualize and feel how that would feel and make that be part of your affirmations. Okay. I probably have a few more things that I could talk about, but those were the main points that I wanted to make, and I really need to get out the door. Anyway, I thank you so much, Dan, for giving me a chance to tell my story and prompting me to really analyze what has happened to me and share it in hopes of helping someone else, because that's the whole thing. Like I said, I made a promise that if there was some way what I was going through could serve a purpose, then please help me see that and execute the delivery of that purpose to help other people find some hope. So, yeah, please, faithsquared.com. It's a great place. Some pretty cool music there. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching. I appreciate you.